Others might be thinking. Now, pause. Take a deep breath. Because I'm about to share something that might completely transform your understanding of success, achievement, and fulfillment. In a world obsessed with comparison, where social media has turned our lives into public performance art, where we're constantly bombarded with images of other people's highlight reels, I'm here with a message that might seem counterintuitive but is absolutely essential. The most powerful decision you will ever make is to focus exclusively on yourself. Not in a selfish way, not in an arrogant way, but in the most transformative, life-changing way possible. You see, when you truly understand the mechanics of extraordinary achievement, you realize a profound truth. All lasting change, all meaningful progress, all genuine success starts and ends with your relationship with yourself. The path to greatness isn't out there. It's within you, waiting to be discovered through relentless self-focus. Today, I'm going to show you why focusing on yourself isn't just an option. It's the only sustainable path to the life you truly desire. Let's begin this journey together. The wealthiest people in the world understand a fundamental principle that most people miss. The highest return investment you will ever make isn't in stocks, real estate, or cryptocurrencies. It's in yourself. When you invest in yourself, your skills, your knowledge, your mindset, your health, you're creating an asset that can never be taken away from you and that compounds in value over time. Think about it. Every dollar you put into developing your skills creates earning potential that can multiply that investment thousands of times over. Every hour you invest in developing mental clarity and emotional resilience creates efficiencies in decision-making that save you countless hours of distraction and misdirection. Every day you commit to physical health adds productive days to your life's journey. But what stops most people from making this investment? External focus. They're too busy watching what others are doing, comparing themselves to others' journeys, and attempting to meet external expectations. They spend more time analyzing others' success than building their own foundation. This outward focus is the silent killer of potential. While you're watching others climb their mountains, you're neglecting to take the first step up your own. While you're analyzing someone else's business model, your own unique opportunity passes you by. The hard truth is that nobody, not your spouse, not your parents, not your friends, not your mentor, nobody is going to invest in you the way you can invest in yourself. Nobody has more skin in the game of your success than you do. Nobody benefits more from your growth than you. So why would you outsource the most important investment decisions of your life to others? When you focus on yourself, you begin to see opportunities for growth that were invisible before. You notice patterns in your behavior that need adjustment. You identify knowledge gaps that need filling. You recognize strengths that need leveraging and weaknesses that need addressing. The clarity that comes from self-focus allows you to deploy your limited resources, your time, energy, and money, with surgical precision. The most successful people I've encountered share this common trait. They are absolutely relentless about self-investment. They read voraciously. They learn continuously. They seek feedback hungrily. They reflect deeply. They course-correct quickly. They do these things not out of narcissism but out of an understanding that their capacity to impact others is directly proportional to their investment in themselves. Your capacity to contribute, to serve, to provide value, to change lives, including the lives of those you love most, is directly tied to your willingness to focus on developing yourself. The greatest gift you can give to others is not your distraction but your development. Not your comparison but your competence. Not your envy but your excellence. So I challenge you today. Make the decision that from this moment forward, you will be the primary beneficiary of your focus. Commit to becoming a master investor in the one asset that will determine the quality of everything else in your life: yourself. Let me tell you about the most dangerous game most people play without even realizing it: the comparison game. It's a game designed for you to lose, no matter how well you play it. When you measure yourself against others, one of two things happens, both destructive. Either you feel inferior, which breeds resentment and kills motivation, or you feel superior, which breeds complacency and halts growth. Neither serves your highest potential. The truth about competition that most people miss is this: the only competition that matters is the competition with your previous self. Today versus yesterday. This week versus last week. This year versus last year. That's the only measuring stick that drives genuine, sustainable progress. When you focus exclusively on surpassing who you were before, something magical happens. You eliminate the psychological roller coaster of external comparison. Your progress becomes steady rather than sporadic. Your motivation becomes intrinsic rather than dependent on outdoing others. Your sense of accomplishment becomes authentic rather than relative. Think about it this way. If you were the only person on Earth, how would you measure your success? You'd have no choice but to compare your current capabilities to your previous ones. That's the purest form of growth assessment, and it's available to you right now, regardless of what anyone else is doing. The most extraordinary achievers understand this principle intuitively. They're not looking sideways, they're looking backward at who they were and forward at who they're becoming. They're asking, am I better today than I was yesterday? Not, am I better than that person over there? This shift in focus eliminates so much unnecessary suffering. The anxiety of wondering if you're keeping up with others, gone. The disappointment when someone else succeeds where you haven't yet, gone. The false pride when you're temporarily ahead of others, gone. What remains is the pure satisfaction of personal progress, the most sustainable form of motivation there is. When you compete exclusively with yourself, you also gain the ability to celebrate others' victories genuinely. Their success doesn't threaten yours. It becomes inspiration rather than intimidation. You can learn from others without being diminished by their achievements. This creates a virtuous cycle where your self-focus actually improves your relationships rather than harming them. Personal records matter more than public rankings. The gap between your potential and your performance is more important than the gap between your performance and someone else's. Your growth rate is more significant than your relative standing. So I challenge you to make this commitment. Stop looking around and start looking within. Begin keeping score against yourself, not against others. Measure what matters: your personal progress, your consistency, your resilience in the face of setbacks. These metrics will tell you everything you need to know about whether you're on the right track. Remember, someone will always have more than you. Someone will always do certain things better than you. But no one, absolutely no one, can beat you at being you. That's the competition you're designed to win. Let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. How much of your life is being lived according to other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments? If you're like most people, the answer is far too much. We live in an unprecedented age of opinion. Billions of people with smartphones, all ready to tell you what you should do, how you should look, what success means, what happiness requires. Social media has created the greatest opinion amplification machine in human history. And in this cacophony of conflicting viewpoints, many people have lost the ability to hear the one voice that matters most, their own. Here's the brutal truth. Most opinions you encounter, even from well-meaning friends and family, are projections of other people's fears, limitations, and experiences. They're not directions for your unique journey, they're distractions from it. Think about it. How could someone else possibly know what's right for you? They don't have your specific combination of talents. They don't have your particular dream. They don't have your unique circumstances. They don't have your personal mission. Even the most well-intentioned advice is filtered through someone else's lens, someone else's biases, someone else's life story. The most successful people I know have developed an almost supernatural ability to filter out noise. They've built what I call an opinion immunity, not because they're arrogant, but because they understand that true clarity comes from within, not from without. This doesn't mean you never seek counsel or feedback. It means you've developed the discernment to know whose input to value and when. It means you understand the difference between feedback that serves your growth and opinions that serve others' agendas. It means you recognize that even experts can only guide you based on general principles. The application to your specific situation must come from your internal wisdom. When you focus exclusively on yourself, you begin to trust your inner guidance system. You reconnect with what I call your authentic knowing, that quiet voice of intuition that almost always knows the right path but is so often drowned out by the louder voices of external opinion. I've seen countless talented people derailed by the simple habit of giving too much weight to what others think. The artist who abandons her unique style because someone criticized it. The entrepreneur who pivots from a promising idea because a few people didn't get it. The person who stays in the wrong career because others define success in a particular way. The path to extraordinary achievement is rarely crowded because most people are too busy following someone else's map to forge their own trail. Most people are too concerned with fitting in to stand out, too worried about criticism to create something truly original. When you make the shift to focus exclusively on yourself, you'll find a new kind of confidence emerging. Not the brittle confidence that comes from external validation, but the unshakable confidence that comes from internal alignment. You'll start making decisions based on what truly resonates with your core values rather than what will earn you the most approval. This self-trust is the foundation of all meaningful accomplishment. Every great innovation, every paradigm shift, every revolutionary idea came from someone who was willing to trust their own perspective over popular opinion. So I challenge you. Begin today to take inventory of how much of your life is being directed by others' opinions. Then commit to turning down that external volume so you can hear your own wisdom more clearly. Your unique contribution to the world depends on it. There's a fundamental difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who live in perpetual frustration. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not resources. It's a simple mindset shift that changes everything. Personal accountability. When you focus exclusively on yourself, you embrace a powerful truth that most people spend their lives avoiding. You are 100% responsible for your life's outcomes. Not 70%. Not 95%. 100%. This doesn't mean you control every circumstance. You don't. But it means you control your response to every circumstance, and ultimately, that's what shapes your life. Most people live in what I call the blame zone, that comfortable but powerless place where their results are always explained by external factors. The economy, their upbringing, their boss, their spouse, their lack of connections, their competitors. This worldview feels safe because it absolves you of responsibility, but it comes with a devastating price. It strips you of your power to change. The moment you shift to complete self-focus, something transformational happens. You move from the blame zone to the responsibility zone, that challenging but infinitely more powerful place where you recognize that while you didn't cause all your circumstances, you are responsible for dealing with them effectively. This shift doesn't happen because you're looking to blame yourself. It happens because you're looking to empower yourself. Think about it this way. Every time you identify an external factor as the reason for your situation, you're essentially saying, "My progress is contingent on something outside my control changing." This is the recipe for stagnation. But when you ask, "Given these circumstances, what can I do to create the outcome I want?" Now you're in motion. Now you're generating momentum. I've seen this pattern play out countless times. Two people face identical setbacks. The externally focused person says, "I can't succeed because X happened to me." The self-focused person says, "X happened. Now, what am I going to do about it?" 5 years later, their lives look completely different, not because one had fewer obstacles, but because one took ownership while the other took refuge in excuses. Personal accountability isn't about beating yourself up when things go wrong. It's about putting yourself in the driver's seat regardless of the road conditions. It's about asking better questions, not "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this teaching me? How can I use this? What's the opportunity here? When you take complete ownership of your results, something remarkable happens. People begin to trust you more. Opportunities find you more frequently. Resources become more available. Not because the universe is rewarding your mindset, though perhaps it is, but because people are naturally drawn to those who don't make excuses, who find a way regardless of circumstances, who bring solutions rather than complaints. This ownership creates what I call momentum of agency, the snowball effect that happens when you consistently respond to life as a creator rather than a victim. Each accountable choice leads to another, and another, until you've built unstoppable forward motion. So I challenge you today, make the commitment to radical accountability. Not just for the big things, but for everything. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your career, your emotional states. Take ownership not because you're to blame for everything, but because you want the power to change anything. Remember, there are two types of people in this world. Those who focus on all the reasons why they can't, and those who focus exclusively on how they can. Which group will you join? In a world of endless options and constant distraction, nothing is more valuable than clarity. And no form of clarity is more powerful than clarity of purpose. Knowing exactly what you're here to do, what matters most to you, and what contribution you're uniquely designed to make. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for this clarity to come from outside themselves. They look for the right career assessment to tell them their purpose. They wait for someone to discover their talents. They hope that someday, someone will hand them the perfect role that matches their unique design. But that moment never comes, at least not in the way they expect. The hard truth is that clarity of purpose is never found. It's forged. And it's forged through relentless self-focus, through the courageous act of looking inward rather than outward for your answers. When you focus exclusively on yourself, your patterns, your moments of flow, your sources of energy, your deepest values, you begin to notice threads that have always been there but were obscured by your attention to external standards. You start to see the themes that have been consistent throughout your life, even as circumstances changed. You recognize the problems you're naturally drawn to solve, the contributions that feel effortless to you but valuable to others. Most people never achieve this clarity because they're too busy chasing someone else's definition of success or purpose. They're running on tracks laid by parents, teachers, society, or peers rather than mapping their own course based on their internal compass. Think about the most fulfilled people you know. Not just the successful ones by external standards, but those who radiate a sense of meaning and alignment. I guarantee they share this common trait. They've done the internal work to understand their unique design and then built their lives in harmony with it, regardless of convention or criticism. This internal clarity creates a decision-making filter that simplifies everything. When you know with certainty what you're about, your mission, your values, your non-negotiables, you gain the ability to evaluate opportunities with remarkable speed and confidence. You know what to say yes to and what to decline. You recognize distractions for what they are rather than mistaking them for opportunities. Here's a paradox most people miss. The clearer you become about who you are and what you're here to do, the less you need external validation and the more it naturally comes to you. When you're aligned with your authentic purpose, you do work of uncommon quality and impact. That work resonates with others not because you sought their approval, but because you weren't distracted by it. I've seen countless talented people spend decades in the wilderness of confusion simply because they kept looking outside themselves for answers that could only come from within. They chased trending careers rather than trusting their instincts. They pursued prestigious paths that offered external validation but internal emptiness. The path to purpose clarity requires courage because it often means breaking from conventional wisdom. It requires patience because true clarity rarely comes as a lightning bolt. It emerges gradually as you pay attention to yourself. And most of all, it requires radical honesty, the willingness to acknowledge what truly lights you up, even if it doesn't match what's supposed to light you up. So I challenge you, make the commitment to turn your focus inward in search of your unique purpose. Pay attention to what energizes you and what drains you. Notice what problems you can't help but try to solve. Identify the impact you feel compelled to make. Then build your life around these truths rather than trying to contort yourself to fit someone else's template. Remember, there will always be louder voices outside you telling you what you should want and who you should be. The only way to hear your own voice, the one that knows your true purpose, is to focus exclusively on yourself long enough for that voice to emerge above the noise. One of the greatest mistakes I see people make is looking for success formulas in others' journeys while ignoring the success patterns in their own lives. Everyone wants the secrets of extraordinary achievers, the magic formula that will transform their results. They study others' habits, mindsets, and strategies, hoping to find the perfect template to copy. But here's the truth most people miss. The most valuable success clues aren't in someone else's journey. They're in your own. Your past victories, however small, contain the DNA of your future achievements. Your moments of excellence, even fleeting ones, reveal your natural path to greatness. But you'll never see these clues if you're constantly looking outward rather than inward. When you focus exclusively on yourself, not in comparison to others, but in deep, curious observation, you begin to notice patterns that have always been there. You see the conditions under which you naturally thrive. You recognize the types of problems you solve with unusual effectiveness. You identify the environments that bring out your best and those that diminish you. Think about your past successes, the times when you achieved results that satisfied you. What were the common elements? Were you working alone or with others? Were you creating something new or improving something existing? Were you working under pressure or with abundant time? Were you following detailed instructions or improvising your approach? These patterns are the breadcrumbs leading to your unique success formula. Most people never discover their natural success pattern because they're too busy trying to force themselves into someone else's mold. They read that successful people wake up at 5 a.m., so they set their alarms even though their natural rhythm makes them most creative at midnight. They hear that a certain personality type succeeds in a particular field, so they try to contort themselves to fit that profile rather than finding the approach that matches their authentic design. When you focus on yourself, you realize that success isn't about mimicking others. It's about maximizing yourself. It's about amplifying what already works for you rather than completely reinventing yourself according to someone else's blueprint. This doesn't mean you can't learn from others. Of course you can and should. But it means that you filter external wisdom through the lens of self-knowledge. You ask, given what I know about my unique design, how might this principle apply to me? Rather than blindly copying tactics that worked for someone with an entirely different makeup. I've seen too many talented people fail not because they lacked ability, but because they were running someone else's race. The entrepreneur trying to build a business using methods that contradict their strengths. The professional advancing toward a leadership style that fights against their natural tendencies. The creative following a process that stifles their unique gifts. The most successful people I know have done the deep work of understanding their personal success pattern. They know their unique combination of strengths. They've identified their distinctive approach to problems. They've clarified the conditions under which they thrive. And they've built their entire operating system around these insights rather than trying to succeed using someone else's formula. So I challenge you. Begin today to study yourself with the same intensity with which you've studied others. Review your life for clues about your natural success pattern. When have you been most effective? When have you achieved results with the least struggle? When have you felt most aligned and energized by your work? These memories aren't just pleasant nostalgia, they're the map to your future achievements. Remember, there's no universal formula for extraordinary success. There's only your formula, the unique combination of elements that allows your specific gifts to create maximum impact. And you'll only discover this formula when you focus exclusively on yourself. In a world obsessed with formulas and frameworks, here's a truth that gets overlooked. Extraordinary achievement isn't about following a standard path. It's about creating a path that never existed before. And that path can only emerge when you focus exclusively on your unique combination of gifts, circumstances, and vision. Most people spend their lives trying to find the right path, the proven route, the established track, the validated approach. They want certainty before they step out. They want guarantees before they commit. What they don't realize is that the most fulfilling and impactful journeys are those that haven't been mapped yet because they're uniquely yours to forge. When you focus exclusively on yourself, not from ego but from the desire to contribute your distinctive value, you begin to see possibilities that aren't visible to anyone else. You recognize connections between your experiences that form a unique perspective. You identify problems that you're distinctively equipped to solve. You envision innovations that could only come from your particular vantage point. Think about the most transformative contributors in any field. They didn't excel by perfectly executing someone else's playbook. They excelled by writing a new playbook based on their unique insights, strengths, and vision. They weren't the best implementers of existing approaches. They were the creators of new approaches that leveraged their specific makeup. Most people never discover their unique path because they're too busy looking for validation through conventional routes. They choose security over possibility, conformity over creativity, proven mediocrity over unproven potential. They allow their fear of the unknown to override their intuition about where they could create the greatest value. When you focus on yourself, truly understanding what makes you different rather than trying to be the best version of someone else, you begin to see your anomalies not as flaws to be corrected but as potential advantages to be leveraged. Your unusual background becomes a source of novel insights rather than something to minimize on your resume. Your distinctive way of thinking becomes your competitive edge rather than something to normalize. I've seen countless people achieve breakthrough results not by becoming more like others in their field but by becoming more fully themselves. The business leader who leveraged their unique background in psychology to create a revolutionary organizational culture. The teacher who drew on their unconventional learning experiences to develop methods that reached previously unreachable students. The artist who embraced their distinctive sensibilities rather than trying to fit within established genres. Your unique path requires your unique focus because no one else can see what you see. No one else has your specific combination of experiences, perspectives, and abilities. No one else can make your distinctive contribution. But you'll never discover this path if you're constantly distracted by what others expect, what's conventional, or what seems safe. So I challenge you, have the courage to focus on yourself long enough to discover your unique path. Pay attention to what makes you different rather than working so hard to fit in. Notice which problems capture your attention even when no one is watching or rewarding you. Identify where your unique background gives you insights that others might miss. Remember, the world doesn't need another replica of what already exists. It needs the contribution that only you, with your unique design and perspective, can make. And that contribution will remain undiscovered as long as your focus remains on fitting in rather than standing out through authentic self-expression. We've covered 7 powerful principles about focusing exclusively on yourself. Let me bring them together into one unified message that I hope will stay with you long after our time together ends. The journey of achievement isn't about looking around. It's about looking within. It's not about replicating others' success. It's about releasing your unique potential. It's not about meeting external expectations. It's about fulfilling your internal calling. When you make the radical commitment to focus exclusively on yourself, your growth, your progress, your purpose, your unique design, something extraordinary happens. The noise fades. The confusion clears. The path emerges. Not because the world suddenly becomes less complex, but because your internal clarity begins to override the external chaos. This self-focus isn't about becoming self-centered. Ironically, it's about becoming truly capable of serving others at the highest level. Because you can only give what you've developed within yourself. You can only lead others as far as you've gone yourself. You can only create external value in proportion to your internal growth. So I leave you with this final challenge. Make the decision today that from this moment forward, you'll stop diluting your focus through comparison, through excessive concern about others' opinions, through chasing external validation. Instead, commit to the disciplined practice of self-focus, not as an act of selfishness but as your greatest act of potential service to the world. Because the truth is this: the world doesn't need more people desperately trying to be like someone else. It needs more people who have done the courageous work of becoming fully themselves. That's who you're meant to be. And that transformation can only happen when you focus exclusively on yourself. Thank you for your attention today. Now go forth and have the courage to keep your focus where it belongs, on becoming the fullest, most authentic expression of yourself. The world is waiting for that person to emerge. Before we part ways, I want to express my deepest gratitude for your presence and attention today. Taking time to invest in yourself by being here demonstrates that you already understand something fundamental about success. It begins with prioritizing your own growth. Remember that focusing on yourself isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. There will be moments when the pull of comparison or external validation becomes strong again. In those moments, I hope you'll remember our conversation and recommit to keeping your focus where it belongs. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. The fact that you're here, seeking growth and willing to challenge conventional wisdom, tells me you're already on the path to extraordinary achievement. Keep going. Keep focusing. Keep becoming. The world needs what only you can bring.